Welcome to the Golden Age of Cardboard podcast, where we remember a time when stacks of cards were held together with rubber bands and Mickey Mantles were put in bike spokes. We hope you will enjoy and reminisce as you come along with us as we tell stories about the baseball cards from the Golden Age of Baseball. We will examine the state of the vintage baseball card market and talk to some of the greatest collectors in the hobby. You won't be hearing us talk about any chrome or shiny cards here. Now, to take you on this retrospective journey, here's your host, direct from the shallow end of the gene pool, my son, Mike Moynihan.
Yo, and hello, everybody, and welcome to that retrospective journey called Golden Age of Cardboard. Welcome to the show, everybody. My name's Mike, your host this week. And I would say every week, but I did have that period in December where I had some guest hosts, so I can't say every week. But for now, for the foreseeable future, I will be your host. Welcome, everybody, to this episode. I'm excited about today. I get to talk to one of my friends in the hobby who is incredibly popular on YouTube and has a successful show. And I'm just going to bring him on now because we're just going to go right into tonight's topic. It's Chris Sewell, baseball collector, investor, dealer, in that order. What's up, Chris?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing great. What is this, your third or fourth time on the show now?
I believe it's third. I believe it's third.
Once you get to 5, you get a free Slurpee.
Well, let's do that.
Keep going on that.
Yeah. I haven't last time I haven't been on in a while, so I got to congratulate you on the Rangers and
Thank you.
And on the Cowboys making the 2 seed.
Yeah, it's a good time to be a Metroplex sports fan.
Yeah.
Less of a good time for you right now.
No, well, it's never a good time for a Washington fan. I guess
Well,
we had the Capitals win once. Yeah.
You got the number 2 pick.
Yep.
In the draft for NFL, and the Nationals will have a high draft pick, which won't matter for a number of years, but
they'll be good in 2029 or so.
There you go.
Yeah.
Until then, you can come on with us. It's okay. You can.
I'm switching over to Baltimore because I currently live in Baltimore, so
they're going to be really good for a long time.
Yeah, I'm jumping on Baltimore bandwagons.
Did you watch the World Series?
No, not much. No. Sorry.
You and everybody else in America, apparently.
Yeah.
Lowest rated World Series ever.
Right. Since they started paying attention, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Since it mattered. Well, I don't care because we won. So
no, I wouldn't care either. No.
I just don't care. You did a video that tonight's episode was, Chris and I have been talking about getting together to do this for a while, but the topic of tonight's episode came to me a couple of weeks ago when you did a video on your channel that talked about just some things you saw that were sketch, right?
Yeah.
Maybe describe that and why you did that, and then we'll kind of get into our topic tonight.
Yeah, and I did a video like that like a year ago, and it was a popular video, got a lot of comments, and so this was sort of like a part 2 of it. I just came up with 3 more topics that I had seen a lot lately, mainly focused around eBay, and just basically put it out like, what do people think? Because I don't think there are sort of black and white answers like this is obviously bad or obviously not bad. It's sort of a gray area. So I presented them and asked the viewers to give their opinion, and then I just posted yesterday the follow-up to it, which sort of goes into all the viewers' opinions and mine as well.
Well, I thought it was very intriguing. Kind of allowed me to kind of contemplate some of these issues that are going on eBay. And it got me thinking about some potentially sleazy vintage practices, things that when you're buying vintage cards, it's different than modern.
Yeah.
Yes, you agree?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Things you need to look out for when buying vintage cards versus modern cards. And so I was like, hey, let's take that core idea that you had and let's really focus on the vintage world to give the people out there something to kind of be aware of, think about. Most of you guys have probably heard all these, but you're going to hear it from our perspectives tonight.
Yeah.
And the topic du jour, it feels like when I see what the content on YouTube, what's going on in the vintage world, there's a lot of this discussion about restoring cards and whether that's fakes or altering or trimming or all the different things, that has become, I mean, shoot, you can buy a kit now to alter your cards, or whatever.
I know. Well,
And
aren't there even companies that advertise, hey, send us your cards and we'll, oh, sorry.
that's all right.
There are companies that'll even advertise, send us your cards and we'll fix them for you.
Yeah. Tell Jeremy we'll call him back later.
Okay.
Yeah, there are companies that do that. And that is so, like, the core of me just screams, no, that is not okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to a vintage card. What's your general take on vintage, restoring, altering, changing? And we'll go into a discussion on that, and I'll give my take too.
Yeah, I'm probably a little more old school than well, I guess as a vintage viewership, so maybe not compared to everyone, but yeah, I'm very much of the, you basically can't do anything if you can do something with like your thumb, like maybe just press out a corner or something. That's basically all I think is okay. Maybe if there's like something attached to the card, like a little piece of candy, and you can scrape it off, that's fine. But if you have to use anything other than your physical hand, I don't do it. I don't know that I necessarily frown upon others who do, but I don't do it. And that would be the stance I would take if I was in charge of the rules.
And none of us are in charge, so
No.
we're giving our opinions. But it also helps people to think about asking questions maybe when they're buying cards. Now, how forthcoming will a seller be? I don't know. But first of all, to me, vintage cards aren't supposed to look great. Right? I mean, I saw a Gem Mint 10 Hank Aaron rookie a few weeks ago with Nat Turner, and I'm just like, as cool as it was,
Doesn't look right.
Doesn't even look like a vintage card. I mean, vintage cards to me are supposed to look old because they are old. But to me, I've always felt if you can bend a corner back, if it's been dog-eared down and you can bend it back, it'll still reflect that in the grade. But to me, you're not altering the actual, any coloring is a complete no-no. I think soaking is wrong.
Yeah, me too.
I think that adding any chemical to the card is just completely off limits. You're altering the chemistry of the card. That's a problem.
Yeah.
But remember when we were kids and we'd put vintage cards in and you'd catch it on the 9-page pocket, and it would
nick the corner. Yeah.
Nick the corner or bend the corner back, even like split the corner, and it would, that would piss me off so bad whenever I do that. I'm like, what an idiot,
Yeah.
Putting those back together with your fingers is,
that's okay. So do you like my rule? Like if you can do it with your finger, you're okay. But if you can't use anything else, no pen, no liquid, no coin, no, I don't even like the fiber. People say you rub like a pantyhose and it will get the gum. I don't even think that, like, to me that's even too far. But again, I wouldn't really frown upon someone who did that. I just choose not to.
I'm probably on the fence on the pantyhose thing.
Yeah.
I get why people would do that to take gum stains off or whatever, rub that out. Oh, it's such a slippery slope though. And
well, here's another truth about it is the old school guys are losing this battle. It's becoming more and more and more acceptable as we go. And maybe in 20 years, nobody's going to care what you do.
And here's the thing though. I'm a comic guy too, right? So comics have long been restored, right?
Yeah, I always found that very interesting. Yeah, it's much more accepted, right?
Completely accepted, but it's always disclosed, and that's I think a key differentiator.
Well, yeah.
In anything is disclosure. If you send a comic book into CGC to get graded, and they identify it as restored, it has a different color flip. It's purple instead of blue, and so that it's a restored book instantly, just by looking at the flip, and then you can kind of look and assess and decide if you want to buy that card. And I don't have any problem with people. Honestly, this is true. I don't have a problem with people altering cards as long as it's disclosed to. Now, we all know there's people out there, they restore a card, they send it off to PSA, and their frame of mind is, well, if they catch it, great. If they don't, that's on them.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
No one's going to put on their 52 Tops Mickey Mantle, hey, I colored the right side of this.
It's a PSA 8, but I altered it, and PSA didn't figure it out. Yeah.
Right. And that I have a problem. That's obviously crossing the line, disclosing it, telling someone, yes, I altered this card, or yes, it's trimmed, which, oh, here we go. Let's go down that.
By the way, that's a great qualifier you gave it. And the same for me. I don't have a problem with anyone altering a card if it's their card, but yeah, if you go to sell it, it needs to be disclosed. That's
right.
That's the qualifier.
I mean, trimming is obviously a huge no-no to me. Like, I absolutely disagree with trimming, even if the card was cut big to begin with and someone's just making it the actual size that it should be.
Yeah.
That even is no good to me. Taking anything off of a card, physically changing the card, is just a complete no-no.
Same.
Okay. Disclosure, right? To me, it's all about disclosure. I just want to know. And I don't like, do you buy altered card? I don't like to buy altered cards.
I don't own, I wouldn't buy an altered card if I mean, I guess if like I had a chance to buy like a Wagner, or something absurd where I'm never going to get this card otherwise. Maybe. Right. But yeah.
Like, everybody's telling me, I have friends that own a 52 Tops Mantle and it's all authentic altered, or whatever. That has zero appeal to me. I don't have a problem with them owning it. Great. If that's what you want to own in your collection, fine. Obviously, it's a price point issue. There's a lot of things that go into that decision for every collector. But for me, I don't want it to say altered on the flip. I just don't.
Me neither. I would rather have a really ugly mantle creased up all over the place than a nice looking one with a pen mark.
Yeah.
Or that had a colored corner, let's say.
Right.
Which sounds ridiculous.
Doesn't that sound ridiculous? It does. It, like, when we say it out loud.
I know when you say it out loud, you're like, oh, man, is something wrong with me? But yeah, no, that's what I'd rather have. Me
too. That's what I'd rather have. And the reality is that we all have choices to make in the hobby, Now my phone's ringing. That's Jeremy calling me now.
He's like, where's Chris?
Yeah. Are you talking to Chris? Yes, I'm talking to Chris. But something you brought up in your video that I thought was fascinating, and I think it applies to vintage, and you'll probably agree with this even more so than modern, which is where you were kind of focusing. But if someone grades, you send in a card to get graded, and it comes back with X grade, and you're disappointed, right? Mm-hmm. And you crack it out and you send it off to SGC now. You're like, I just don't think this is a 4 or whatever. Let's just say you get a 4. I think it's a 6, and you then crack it and send it off to SGC and it comes back a 6.
Yeah.
What say you then about how someone should handle that?
Yeah, that was one of the three. Yeah, that was one of the three things I brought up, and I had never thought of. I mean, I've been a seller for over 10 years, and I would have never even considered that. But I did a video where I had a Jordan rookie. I sent it to PSA, and PSA said it was altered. They wouldn't grade it. I couldn't figure out why. It wasn't a screw down, so I assume it had been pressed. But it didn't look altered to me. It looked fine. I couldn't find anything, so I just sent it to SGC, and SGC gave it a 4. And I mentioned this in one of my videos, and so 2 different people just asked me in the comments, so if you're going to sell it, are you going to disclose that PSA considered it altered? And my immediate reaction was like, no, of course not. It's comfortably in an SGC 4 holder. I'm selling it as an SGC 4. Of course not. But it did get me thinking, like, maybe that's something we should consider. I mean, if I was a buyer of that card, I'd potentially want to know that, right? Because there's probably buyers out there who are like, oh, it's an SGC 4. I could crack it and send it to PSA. And they would want to know up front that maybe they shouldn't do that because PSA is going to call it altered. And so it's just not something that never crossed my mind as something we as a hobby should do. And so I put it out there to sort of ask everybody what they thought about it.
And I think there's probably more cracking and reslabbing over the decades. Modern will catch up, but a lot of that's been going on in vintage forever.
Yeah.
As long as there's been slabbing, right?
Yeah.
As long as there's been multiple companies to send it to, or even I had a 68 Tops Lubrock, right? And raw, and I sent it in to PSA. It came back miscut. Uh-huh. And I was like, this doesn't look miscut to me. And I put it up against another card. It wasn't short. It wasn't, I mean, it was slightly short, right?
Okay.
And
you felt like it was within the
for sure.
boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah. The tolerance levels, I thought it was easily within. So I resubmitted it and it came back a PSA 5.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay. If I ever sell that card, what's my obligation here to someone? I mean, it was miscut once and then sent back and got a numerical grade of a 5. So I don't know. I immediately thought of that when you did that video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll spoil the second the results of the second. Essentially, everyone said, no, you don't need to disclose that. There were a few stragglers who thought that you should. A few, not stragglers, a few people who thought you should. And a lot of good points. I mean, like if you were selling a house and you had an inspector come and they said, oh, you should replace the deck, and then you were like, you know what, I didn't really like that inspector. You got a second inspector and they came and said, hey, the deck's great, and then you just presented the second inspector. Nobody would expect you to include the first inspector, would they, in the house sale?
Good point.
And there were lots of good points. There were lots of good points. I'm going to forget some, but a lot of people said if you're cracking a card and resubmitting it, you're taking a gamble, you're investing time and you're investing your money, and if you get any upside from that, you should see that. And most people just sort of had a general feeling like, no, now it's in an SGC holder, you're selling a card and you're selling it as SGC's opinion is this is a 4. Previous grades don't interfere with that.
That is a critical point that you just made, and that all grades are an opinion.
100%. Yeah.
Not fact, not
right.
Ironclad, take this to the bank, right? It's an opinion. And so when you have an opinion, opinions are going to vary. Again, you could send the same, you could crack, reslab, crack, reslab, crack, reslab, PSA, let's say, especially on a vintage card, probably 5 times and probably get 3 to 4 different results in the numerical grade of that card.
I mean, it's wildly drastic how great a range. My my favorite example is I have a Koufax rookie that absolutely beautiful. Sent it to PSA, came back a 2, and I could not figure it out. And on the back, there's like this tiny. It almost looks like a tape residue, but it's not. It's something like that, but it's so minor you would never even see it. I cracked it, sent it back to PSA, and it came back a 7, which I thought was even too low. I was hoping for higher, but 2 to a 7. I mean, 2 different PSA graders with this, who have probably gone through the same training, found the card to be 5 points off.
There are people that are going to watch this and read or put comments down below and say, well, that's an example of why grading is such a scam and why no one should ever believe what it says, right?
Yeah.
And I just take it for what it is. You can take a card in a slab. I just got let's see if I can put my hands on it quick. Got this order back.
Can I go off on a quick tangent real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you noticed a major uptick in grading hater comments?
Yes.
Yeah, in the last, I don't know, 6 months or so.
Yes.
I have two big time. Yeah.
Everyone is just kind of fed up with it.
Yeah.
I sent this Eddie Murray O-Pee-Chee rookie in.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
It was absolutely stunning card.
Yeah.
It got an 8. I actually expected it to get a 9.
Okay.
And an outside shot at a 10, believe it or not.
Like you couldn't see anything really noticeable wrong.
No. And so I sent it off. Just got it back literally yesterday. And I'm going to leave it in this holder. I mean, this is someone's opinion. It is what it is. Cracking and reslabbing or resending it would just be silly. Now, the difference between a 9 and an 8 and a 9 is about $1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big difference on this card, in this particular card. It's not as big a deal on others, right? But it is on this one. And I don't know. It's a guy's opinion. My opinion is that it's better. But my point of that is when you pick up a card at a show in a slab to look at it, you should still look at the card. You shouldn't. It's not like you just get the card and just ignore and only look at the flip, right?
Totally.
You need to look at the card and see if through however you want it, with a loop, with whatever, is that a fair grade for this card? Or I like buying cards that look better than the assigned grade, right? That's kind of always a goal of mine.
Yeah, nice eye appeal. Absolutely. And you already said it, but people think way too much that, oh, it's in a PSA 8 holder, therefore it is an 8. Done. No more discussion. No, that's just one random PSA grader's opinion on that day. They felt it was an 8. That's all that means. We as a hobby put a lot of value in that.
But I would also argue that it doesn't delegitimize the process overall.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean it's worthless. It just means that it's
a legit opinion. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a legit expert. It should be an expert's opinion. Yeah.
Right. And so I would argue that take it for what it is. Look at the card. Make your own assessment. Is that a fair grade or not? Do I think that an 8's fair on this Murray? No, probably not.
Yeah.
I think it's a little higher. Is it worth it to me to do it again? No. But I'm not mad about it at all. I'm paying them to give me their opinion. That was their opinion that day by that person.
Yeah.
Whomever that was.
Yeah. Well, you're almost in a advantageous position because you're not reselling cards. Because if you were doing that to resell it, you'd have a decision to make that would probably be harder.
True.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'd do. I guess I'd have to be literally having to make that decision to be able to tell you what I would do.
Yeah.
But I just don't. I hate the grading haters because I think they're hating for the wrong reasons.
Right. Right. They don't understand what it is. It's just an opinion. That's all it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing: if you don't like the opinion, don't grade cards. Buy ungraded cards. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I
know you go to a show. It's not like everything's graded. I mean, there's 1,000 raw cards for sale for every one graded card.
Right. And knock yourself out if that's gonna. And a lot of guys have told me, these are a lot of comments I'm getting. This is why I'll put out a video and I'll be mildly pissy about something PSA related. Yeah. And because they're not perfect, but just acknowledge it. And they're like, well, you're the sucker, you're the idiot that keeps giving them money. I do know this is a legit 78 O-Pee-Chee. I knew it before based on where I found it and all that kind of stuff, but still now someone else they don't have my knowledge of it. They don't have my internal feeling about why I believe this card is what it is, and it's more public for later. And I just like the look of a PSA holder. I do.
There's also other values of it being in the holder than just the number. I mean, the card is now protected. That it's authentic. There's no question. Maybe you were 99.9% sure. Now you're 100%. I mean, essentially 100% sure. It's not. It's not altered. Or same thing. 99%. These are valuable things. And
I think the expectation that grading is perfect is a flawed expectation. I think you're only setting yourself up for mega disappointment if you expect them to be perfect.
I learned that very early on. Yes.
Yeah. Far from it.
Yeah.
And PSA calling your Jordan altered, SGC calling it a 4. I don't think that means PSA is wrong or SGC is wrong. I think they just had a difference of opinion.
And that's absolutely okay. And SGC's opinion is going to be different than my opinion, than PSA's opinion, than your opinion, than Greg Morris's opinion, than CGC. And they're all going to be. They don't have the exact same rules that apply to everything. And yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That was a lot about grading.
Yeah.
I think.
So what do you think? Do you think if a seller is selling a card and they know it used to be in a previous holder, they should disclose it or not?
No. I don't think that's on there.
Would you respect a seller more who did?
Of course.
Yeah.
No question.
Me too.
Hey, I had this it was in a PSA 4. It looked nicer than that to me, so I sent it and that would actually be a story that would make sense to me.
Yeah.
Hey, it was in a PSA 4. It looked nicer than that, so I sent it off to SGC and it got a 6. And if I look at the card and go, yeah, that looks like a 6, then I would go, okay,
Yeah.
I would respect the seller more for sure.
Yeah.
If they did that. But not disrespect them if they didn't, because
Right.
I would never even know. So it wouldn't matter,
Yeah.
Norman, what are you doing, man? Dog's down here being
Norman,
silly.
the dog's allowed in the beast.
He is. He's
Yeah. Okay.
gonna take a leak on it right now. No, the grading thing is, again, super prevalent, obviously, in the vintage world. People want their cards authenticated, slabbed, protected, like you said, and given a numeric assigned opinion grade of what it is.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's not
how
going
I won
away.
my cards. That's how I won my PC cards.
Yeah. And it's not going away at all, ever. It's only going to get bigger. I do think, though, that the pop reports in vintage are so jacked up because there is a lot of cracking and resubmitting that happens. And so the same card might get graded multiple times. And so it artificially goofs up the pop reports. Not that I'm a pop report guy, but
I've heard people say that it doesn't strike me that it would be a big thing. Like what percentage of cards get cracked? It can't be 1%. It's got to be less than 1%, right?
Good point. That's true.
So I wouldn't think it. I'm sure there are cards, especially like rare cards that are really low pops, that it shows that it's been graded 15 times, but there's really only 6 copies that have been sent in, multiple times. But I would think on most cards it probably doesn't impact it much. That would be my guess. I don't know.
That's a fair point. I hadn't thought about it that way. I guess it's we hear about it, but it's not like it happens all the time.
Right.
My solution to this a long time ago, when Boda, remember Boda, Blowout Detective Agency?
I don't know them. Were they?
On Blowout, there was this group of people that were identifying these cards that had been altered and trimmed, and it was a huge deal for years. This was pre-pandemic.
Okay.
And they're still in effect today, so you can always see what Boda is discovering, these amazing people that find these cards and can identify them.
Oh, that's cool. So they identify it by like some tiny little mark. Yeah. Nice.
And they're really good at it.
I've seen some of this, but I didn't recognize the company name.
Well, it's not a company. It's a group of dudes on Blowout.
Yeah.
And most of them are anonymous because they don't want to get just hammered by whoever, Right. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But to me, a solution, and I should have asked Nat Turner about this, when you submit a card to PSA DNA to get authenticated, not only do they encase it for you and authenticate it, but did you know they also stamp it with a undetectable light, right?
Yep.
So if you send in a 52 mantle that's autographed, it's going to have a, UV, whatever special light sensitive stamp on it saying they authenticated this autograph somewhere on that card. And I don't think most people realize that that's true. It says it right in very, hey, we use this great technology to certify your item, this and that, and even to cards. So that's happening. I always thought during the whole trimming scandal, just do that to a card. Identify the card with something that's non-visible ink, and people are like, don't put ink on my card. That they're already doing it. They're already doing it on every autographed item that comes through.
Every autograph. Okay. Yeah.
And so even if you have a 69 tops Reggie Jackson rookie that goes through there and it's autographed, it's getting that on it.
Yeah.
And so you're already, even if you get it dual certed, dual graded, card's a 9 and the autograph's a 10. That card's getting that ink on it. And so
I've heard this. I guess I didn't realize. So that's every autograph item, no matter what.
Yes,
including cards. So why would they not apply that to cards in general? Or hey, you gotta have Nat Turner on your channel, man.
Maybe I should wait. I'll have him back on my channel.
Yeah, get him back on.
But that would be, now they're doing all these high-res scans, because every card is kind of like a fingerprint, right? They all have enough uniqueness to each one of them, especially in the vintage world, right? This is probably less so in the modern, ultra modern world.
Has any other company has any other company tried this, or does Tag use something like that? Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Good question that I don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
But PSA already has that technology, is my point, that they're using on the PSA DNA side.
Right.
Tag basically tag it. Yep, we've graded this before, so that if you cracked it and resubmitted it,
they would know.
And they would know, and they would go.
It can only go down. So it can only go down in grade.
Right. We already gave this a 4. Sorry.
It's not getting a 5. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not getting a bump. Now, if you ask for a bump, hey, can you reassess this card?
Yeah.
That's a legit, question.
Sure.
It can be. Then would you get 2 stamp? I don't know, but just.
You're creating more questions than answers here.
Well, people think I'm absolutely bonkers for even suggesting that PSA do that, because I don't want any. I mean, it's universally unanimous, whatever word you want to use, that do not do that to my card.
I mean, we did at the beginning of this video, so you can't use any substance on a card. So I don't know what is it? Is it liquid? What is it? Is it a microchip?
It's an ink. It's an ink. You know what? We'll just do this right now.
If it was like a microchip,
yeah, certainly that would be a problem.
And then you could know where. Then it can't get stolen because you can always track it down.
Ooh, now you're talking.
See, we're looking 20 years in the future.
Yeah, are we even really answering anything, or are we just bringing up questions? But because we're talking about restoring, we got into okay, I'm getting to the autograph grading. Learn more. Well, I don't want to know about autograph grading.
Is it the same on any substance? Like, it's the same on a ball versus a note, a 3x5 card versus a baseball card versus a bat?
Yeah. Good question. I'm trying to read and listen at the same time, which is, by the way, very difficult.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
They examine it, autograph authentication process. It doesn't say it here on their current website, but I absolutely know that I've read that and thought, why? I like that they do it, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with them doing it. But
in theory, I wouldn't have a problem, but I'd want to know. I'd want to know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I need to do more homework on that actual process.
Yeah.
Before I completely.
It's an interesting thought, though. I mean, it's an interesting thought. It would solve a lot of problems, right? If it worked.
Yeah. But that people say, well, then you're altering the card instantly.
I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, like I said, we said at the beginning of this, you can't put any outside substance on a card.
Right. So I guess that is kind of contradictory.
It's a question we're not going to answer here. We're both gonna have to do some homework on it.
Yeah. Obviously, the people, you and I have been around the block a few times and been to shows, and I've heard some real whoppers from dealers before about where they got a card, this happens to me mainly on autographs, honestly, because I'm probably more of an autograph guy than you.
Yeah.
And I'll see an autograph on an item and I'll be like, oh, tell me about this. It's not certed. Oh yeah, so-and-so, got this from, blah, blah, blah. And they tell this wonderfully long story of authentication. I send it off and it comes back bad. That's not true. It comes back questionable authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've heard some whopper stories before about the source of a card or where it came from or whatever. You got any good ones?
Maybe not specific ones, but I've done videos on this. The thing I cannot stand more than anything when it comes to vintage cards being sold on eBay is because eBay has now, a few years ago, they made it required you sell a card as original or a reprint. I think it's reprint, right. Original or reprint, and you have to check it. And you can't sort of get around that. But people have figured out a way around that. Was they mark it as reprint, and then they say in the description, I found this in my grandfather's garage. I don't know if it's real or not, but so I have to mark it as reprint because eBay's making me, but I think it's real. And this is just a way around the selling reprints as originals on eBay, and it's a very, very common tactic. And it's to me one of the slimiest things there is, because no, it's a reprint. It's a fake.
It's funny. No matter what rules you put in place, someone's going to find a way to circumvent that.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. It's all of it. The eBay authenticity guarantee program, which to me is like, I think they've had some issues, but it's the right idea to protect buyers. But people have figured out a way around that. If you have a one card, it automatically goes to the eBay authenticity guarantee program if it's over a certain price. So people just make 2 cards. Hey, I have a 52 Mantle and a 1991 Donruss Fred McGriff. I'm selling this as a 2-card lot. And that way, now that it's a 2-card lot, it doesn't go to eBay authenticity guarantee because they only take singles.
Really?
Yep. That's a way sellers have figured out how to circumvent that. And it just drives me nuts. It's like eBay's trying. That's a good one. That's a good one, right?
That's a really good one.
You'll see it all the time. I got a Jordan rookie, and there's 4 other Jordans included in the lot, a 91 Upper Deck, and yeah.
I hate sleaziness.
Yeah. Well, going back to the story, I believe it's real, but I have to list it as reprint on eBay because they're making me. But can't stand this stuff.
And then would that prevent you from returning it when you find out it's not real because they listed it as a reprint?
Right. Right. I mean, exactly.
Well, yeah, it's not real.
I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that. Absolutely. And we don't accept returns, unless it's, listed as something's wrong, incorrect about the listing. There's nothing incorrect about the listing. I said it was I listed it as a reprint.
Oh my gosh.
I know. No, it's and you'll see it. I guarantee you, if I went on there right now, I'd find a Nolan Ryan that's obviously a fake that sold in auction for $800. So whatever.
Again, it's the caveat emptor, right? I mean, buyer beware. You got to be. So many people get duped, and the truth is, you and I both can probably tell stories of lessons we've learned the hard way.
Yeah,
and it's only a mistake if you don't learn anything from it. My dad always said that, and I've had that happen to me on some bigger autographs that I thought were real, and then I found out later, like, not only were they not real, like I should have known better.
Yeah,
right. I got wide-eyed at the price or whatever and made a rash decision without doing my homework, and shame on me. I have no one to blame but myself. And I think obviously we put way too much. If a seller's being intentionally deceitful, that's one thing. But we need there is some responsibility on us as the buyer. We're not exempt from all liability in the buying selling process. Right.
Yeah. I touch on this. I mean, buyer beware. The argument is, it always applies, right? Anytime you're buying anything, you should have the buyer beware mentality in mind, and especially if you're like an expert, you've been doing this a long time, and you should know what you're doing. But as like a blanket statement versus over the entire hobby, I don't like it at all, because there's too many people who are new in the hobby. There's too many. The example one of my viewers gave, which was great, grandmother's buying a card for their grandson. There's too many of that, and both things are true, right? Buyer beware, but that doesn't mean sellers can be deceitful. Like, both things are true. Buyer beware, but that doesn't give sellers the right to take advantage, in my view.
And I still even think the responsibility, if it was a scale, is tilted towards the seller being a responsible seller.
Yeah, I've tilted over the years. I used to feel I now put a lot more emphasis on the seller doing the right thing.
Right.
Because I've just seen enough, like I said, grandmas and new people, and I'm sure you've heard, the best way to get somebody to leave the hobby is to rip them off.
Yeah, screw them over.
Yeah,
it's a great idea.
Yeah,
to build a long-term hobbyist.
Right.
It does happen, but I know for me personally, I I don't buy any big raw cards on eBay. I just don't do it. Period. Paragraph. Anything over. In fact, I don't buy any raw cards on eBay. I'll only buy them in person, and that's because I want to do the smell test, so to speak.
Would you make an exception if it was like a really trusted seller?
Sure. Greg Morris would be one.
Yeah.
But I still just feels like I only want to buy graded cards on eBay, and that, again, all that started because I got duped a few times.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and it made me wary, and it gave me pause. It didn't drive me out of the hobby. It just pissed me off enough. I'm like, dang it, I should have known better. Or dang it, why didn't I just buy one that's already slabbed? Because then at least I have a pretty good idea that it's authentic. Again, PSA screws that up too, and SGC, they grade unauthentic cards sometimes, occasionally. They don't catch everything, but it's still better than me.
You know what's funny about what you're saying is like, because you go back as far as I do, like I feel like we're defending grading here a lot, but when you buy a card on eBay and it's in a PSA holder, you're protected in a lot of ways. It's I mean, again, it's not 100%, but it's 99.9%. A lot of people say that grading ruined the hobby, because there's all this like shady stuff going on. Before grading, do you know how much shady stuff? It was the wild west, and trimming was rampant. Fakes were way more prevalent than today, and trimming and fakes were way more prevalent today. If you went into a card shop, there'd be fakes in the display case, like available for sale, and dealers just looking to take advantage of people who didn't know, because there was no protections for anything.
Right.
And of course, there's still trimming today, and there's still fakes and every once in a while a card gets by PSA and SGC or whatever, but it's way, I mean, people, the good old days are not always as good as we remember them. I remember people taking a 12-year-old kid going into a baseball card store, and the card shop owner would love to cheat me out of my $12,
Oh yeah.
Happily. Yeah.
Happily they would do that.
Yeah.
People have asked me, Mike, do you think you own in your beast, of your 4,000 slabs, do you think you own any fake cards or cards that have been altered and weren't caught?
Yeah, you do, probably.
Probably. Yeah. Highly likely, highly probable.
Yeah.
And I don't care. I genuinely don't care. I'm not going to go through and try to find them or do anything other than enjoy them for what they are. It's still just a baseball card, right? And I just don't lose it a wink of sleep over it. I just don't.
Yeah. Nice. It's a nice attitude. Your general attitude about all that stuff is really good. Very, very admirable.
Just trial and error, right? I remember buying a Satchel Paige autograph, and it was on a letter, and it was beautiful, and bought it on eBay and got it. And then I bought it so fast because it was so cheap. And then I got it, and it was still expensive, but cheaper than normal, right? It's not like it was no dollars. And I get it, and I get my Bible out to look at other examples and exemplars of Paige, and I realized that's a common secretarial autograph for Paige. And it basically, his secretary signed this letter for him, sending it back to somebody or whatever it was for. I still have it. And so here's a question for you. Do you think autographs that have come back with questionable authenticity or that are known to be fake, like my Satchel Paige, should I destroy that item?
Destroy it? No. If you can keep it, but you definitely should not let it into the wild.
Okay.
Yeah.
But someday I'm going to pass away. Okay. And hopefully along many days from now. But when I do, my wife's going to find that letter. There's nothing there. It's it's in a big old, top loader, essentially a letter size top loader. And she'll just go, I don't know, just sell it.
Well, so you're keeping it because it means something to you, like the memory of it?
I'm keeping it. That's a great question. People ask me that too. Well, why are you keeping it if you know it's fake? And the simple answer is it means something. It does mean something to me. And it also gives me, I have several of these that I go, yep, lesson learned from that, and people think I'm wrong for doing that, by the way. I shouldn't keep it. I should get rid of it. We had a Satchel Paige Pred Steel postcard that we found in a collection that we bought. And I knew it instantly it wasn't real.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I'm keeping it. I know it's not real. I'm not even going to send it off. I know it's not real. It's not going to pass. And even if it did pass, I would feel terrible because I know it's not real. And Paige has very few of those. They're thousands of dollars. It's a big item.
Yeah.
$5,000 Paige autograph on a Pred Steel Hall of Fame poster.
Sure.
So it's a big deal. And we got excited when we first saw it. And the more we looked at it,
you knew it was no good.
Knew it's no good. And I got criticized by some other people on video.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's I don't know that I've ever really thought of it. I mean, my gut instinct was, no, if it's a personal thing and you're going to keep it, you're cool. Don't let it out in the wild. Don't sell it or give it to somebody else. But yeah,
I'm not here to
when you die. But you're not the when you die argument. I mean, can you put a note on it when you're getting really old?
I won't remember.
My wife burned this when I die.
But do you remember? I mean, these are the comments that people give us on videos. Yeah. You're incredibly accustomed to this as well. That, dude, if you're harping on that, like,
yeah,
I don't want to dupe someone else. I'm not trying to pull one over on anyone or be deceitful. Which I know how you feel about custom cards too. That you're not a fan.
Well, I'm not a fan personally. I don't have a problem with them.
Okay. I thought did other people have problems with custom cards?
Yeah, I wouldn't say the majority of the comments were you can't do custom cards. But the real problem in my video was the way they were listed, using words that clearly didn't apply.
Right.
But no, I don't have any issue with custom cards, and yeah, especially if they're, as long as they're not sold in a deceitful way.
Yeah, I love that you'll see custom, or this or that, and I think it's people trying to get around that, circumventing different things, saying it's real or not real, but I think that custom cards are just an interesting niche of the hobby.
Yeah,
I have some that I've done myself that I enjoy and I like, and they clearly say, you can clearly tell it's a custom card. I mean, it's got my name printed on it, for crying out loud, so
well, that makes it more valuable.
Right. No, hardly. It decreased all the value of these, but I had a point with that and it literally just escaped me. So I'm trying to race back through my brain and remember it. But custom cards we talked about.
Well, so I'm very different in you in that I don't like to display my cards at all. As a collector, I keep my cards literally at the bank, and I go look at them once a month, and I am there for 20 minutes, and I love those 20 minutes, and I'm cool with that. Like that's the way I collect, and I know that's very different from you. You want to display them and share them with everybody, and I think that's very cool. It's just different than me. But for me, like a custom card makes no sense because I have no interest in it. But for someone like you, I can see it. It has tremendous value. You can take something, and I know what the examples you're holding in front of you that are pretty cool items, but they don't look that great. But if you put it into a custom card and have a professional artist work on it, it can look really cool.
Yeah,
nice way to present your items, and I think that's great. I don't see anything wrong with that at all, as long as you don't go selling them saying, "Hey, this is an original," Donruss, whatever.
Right. Well, there's as we kind of tie a bow on this episode, I think some things we want to leave people with is, look, there's nothing like doing your own homework. There's nothing better than learning this hobby yourself. Watching other people, learning from other people, right? Hopefully this show, I get comments all the time, Chris. Man, I've learned so much from your show.
Great. Love it.
Nothing makes me happier. Nothing makes me happier than someone saying they learned something new about the hobby.
Yeah.
By listening to me, dawdle on. But you need to go do it, is what I'm telling you. Not you, Chris, but you guys out there. You need to go do it. You need to absorb information, and you're going to get take it to the cleaners every once in a while.
we've all done it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get a master's degree in getting screwed.
Yeah.
That's part of the process. It's a sad part of the learning process. All of us wish we didn't have to go through that, but they're valuable lessons. They're valuable pieces of information that go into your Rolodex of how to buy vintage cards. And it's shaped me into a certain kind of vintage buyer.
Yeah.
Just as Chris, your unique experiences, good and bad, have shaped you into the kind of buyer that you are, right?
Yeah.
And what little tidbits of advice after all of this yammering that we did for the last 50 minutes would you want to leave people with, and kind of, we don't want to depress people. We want to say there's a map out of this. There's a road out of this.
You just in terms of like buying vintage, how to avoid the scams.
Yeah.
Well, I the reason I asked you about if on eBay, if you're buying a raw vintage card, make sure it's a reputable dealer. Probably.
But how do they determine that, Chris? How does someone go about determining the reputation of that dealer?
I mean, I think the feedback system is pretty good. If it shows you the number and it shows you the percentage of how many are positive, and if both those numbers are really high, you're good probably.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be one thing I would say. Yeah,
I would say just buy cards in person for a while until people can't though.
Buying cards in person is always better. I mean, card shows are 10 times more fun than eBay, but yeah, a lot of people don't have access to shows and stores.
Well, speaking of shows, are you going to Strongsville?
No, I'm not.
What's the next big show you're going to be at? You better not say the National.
No. Well, there's Chantilly. I'll be at the next Chantilly, the next Philadelphia. I will go to a Dallas show soon. Jeremy's been bugging me.
All right.
And I really want to go to Burbank, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to. Are you going to be at any of those?
I'll be at some Dallas shows, obviously my backyard. I'm going to Strongsville.
Yeah. Strongsville. I've never been there. It's like a purely vintage, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's got to be awesome.
I'm crazy excited about
Are there deals though there or not?
I don't know. I've never been, so I will let you know when I'm back. To me, the whole vintage world is softening and getting just more normal.
Yeah.
And that's good to see.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I agree.
And at least as a collector. Then obviously you'll be at the National.
Yeah. We have a booth at the National.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to come park my butt at your booth.
You better
sit down and hang out and
yeah,
help you guys. Yeah. When you come to Dallas, though, we've got to figure out a way when you come to Dallas for you to come over.
I know. I want to see it. Jeremy brags about the tour he got.
That's right. He has been here.
Yeah.
See, you've got to feel left out now.
I do.
We got to remedy that. So
yeah. Wait. So Dallas is this month, right? Because I think March is the one I'm targeting.
Yeah, January, then March. Then they'll do one in May.
Yeah.
Every 2 months, there's a new Dallas show.
Yeah. No. Well. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
It's losing its luster to me, honestly.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it's slowing down a little bit. Like maybe every 2 months is too much. I don't know.
For sure, it's too much. But there's places around the country where there's monthly card shows, so it's not like. But I just think it's not the place to travel to anymore. I would tell you to try to do Burbank. It's really good.
Yeah.
But it's a long way away for you.
It is, but I mean, you can combine it with Disneyland or something. I don't know.
There you go. Let the kids
I don't want to go to Disneyland, but
I'll go to the card show. Y'all go to Disneyland. Here's some money.
Yeah.
Don't get abducted. Like, just send the kids. Like, don't even send an adult. Just like let them loose.
Do you know the comedian Jim Gaffigan?
Yeah, sure.
He does a Disneyland. He does a Disneyland bit. Do you know it? Huh?
No, we don't. I haven't seen it. He
goes, if you want to know what it's like to be at Disneyland, just imagine you're at the DMV, and that's it.
So when I was a teenager and probably 13-ish, 14, so middle school, late middle school, my mom would take us. We had season passes to Six Flags.
Yeah.
And she would drop us off in the morning when they opened.
Yeah. At what age?
13, 14.
Okay.
And we would be gone all day.
Yeah.
At Six Flags. And then we'd set a time and she'd come back and pick us up at like 7. You know, that happened all the time.
Yeah, same. No,
in
same.
the summer.
Yeah,
And we would never dream of sending our kids and letting them do
no,
that.
no,
Like,
no,
even at 13, 14, you wouldn't
no,
probably let your
no.
kids do that.
Yeah,
Oh, the world's changed. And just like you said, sometimes the good old days aren't as good as we remember, right?
yeah.
Cards included. So, well, man, thank you so much for coming on the show again.
Of course.
Great talking with you as always. So
Yeah,
much fun.
Anytime, man.
You're a wealth of knowledge. And if you're living under a rock and you don't know Chris's channel, it's Baseball Collector Investor Dealer. And go check it out. And thanks, Chris. We'll talk to you guys soon. Keep collecting.